In a small forgotten town where nights seemed to last forever and the cold winds whispered through the cracks of old wooden homes, there lived a man who made candles. He was known to everyone simply as the candle maker. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, and he didn't own much. His workshop was small. A single room filled with the scent of melted wax, wooden shelves lined with jars, and tools worn smooth from years of use. But every evening, as the world turned dark, his light began to spread. One candle at a time, one flame at a time, he brought warmth into a cold, forgotten world. He didn't talk much. He didn't boast about his craft. He didn't ask for attention. People in town often wondered how a man could live his whole life in silence, surrounded by fire. But those who paid attention saw something deeper, the quiet rhythm of purpose. They saw a man who didn't chase recognition. He chased meaning. The candlemaker's hands were always steady. Each night, as the moon rose, he began his work. He melted the wax slowly, patiently, never rushing the heat. He knew that if the fire burned too hot, the wax would scorch. If too cold, it would never shape. He waited, watched, adjusted. He didn't force the process. He respected it. There's a kind of wisdom in that. Today, we live in a world that runs faster every day. We scroll endlessly, chasing moments that disappear in seconds. The average person spends more than 7 hours a day on screens. We check our phones more than 150 times a day. We live surrounded by notifications, updates, and opinions, and yet we feel emptier than ever. Anxiety, loneliness, and burnout are higher than they've ever been. The world is louder, but hearts are quieter. The candlemaker lived in the opposite world. His silence wasn't loneliness, it was focus. His solitude wasn't weakness, it was strength. While others shouted to be seen, he worked quietly, trusting that light didn't need an audience. That's the first lesson he teaches us. You don't need to be loud to shine. You don't need to prove your worth to everyone watching. Sometimes the most powerful work happens in complete silence. Every candle begins as wax, shapeless, ordinary, plain. To create a candle, the wax must melt. It has to surrender to the fire before it can hold light. That's what growth is. You don't become who you're meant to be by avoiding the fire. You become it by enduring it. Psychologists call it a transformational adversity, the process of becoming stronger through challenge. When life heats you, it's not punishing you, it's preparing you. The heat that melts you is the same heat that molds you. The wax doesn't know what it's becoming until it hardens. You don't either. The candlemaker often said nothing for hours. Just the sound of slow dripping wax filled the room. If you've ever watched someone truly focused, you know that their silence speaks louder than words. Studies from Harvard show that moments of quiet reflection boost creativity by over 60%. Neuroscientists have proven that silence rewires the brain. It builds new connections in the hippocampus, the area that controls learning and memory. The quieter your environment, the louder your mind becomes. The candlemaker lived that truth. He didn't seek inspiration. He built it one quiet breath at a time. As the wax cooled, he waited. He never touched the molds too soon. He knew that impatience would ruin everything. That's the second lesson. Patience is not passive. It's preparation. Most people give up not because they fail, but because they rush. They want the reward without the wait. They want the flame without enduring the fire. But anything built too quickly breaks too easily. That's why the candlemaker never hurried. He trusted timing more than effort. When the candle was ready, he trimmed the wick, the tiny thread at the heart of every flame. It looked fragile, small, insignificant, but he knew that without it, no light could live. In your life, your wick is your purpose. It's the small, steady reason you keep going when everything else melts away. It's the thing that carries your fire through the chaos. Lose that and you lose your glow. That's why you need to protect it. Not with noise, not with pride, but with clarity. Finally, the moment would come. The candlemaker struck a match and lit the wick. The tiny flame flickered, then grew still. He watched it quietly, never boasting, never calling attention. The room filled with warmth and golden light. The air shimmered softly. Outside, darkness pressed against the windows, but inside, light ruled. One small flame changed everything. You see, the candle doesn't argue with the dark. It simply exists, and darkness disappears. That's how real impact works. It's not about competition or recognition. It's about quiet consistency. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. And your job isn't to be seen, it's to shine wherever you are. Researchers from Yale and the University of Pennsylvania found that people who focus on small acts of service, helping, teaching, creating, healing, experience deeper happiness and longer-lasting fulfillment than those who chase fame or wealth. The candle maker lived this truth. He didn't measure success in money. He measured it in glow, in the light that outlived him. Every candle he made carried a piece of his soul into another home, another heart. That's legacy. That's meaning. History is full of silent candle makers. Nikola Tesla powered the world but died in silence. Vincent van Gogh painted brilliance but never saw its worth. Florence Nightingale changed medicine not with speeches but with a quiet lamp in her hand. They didn't demand to be seen. They simply built light and trusted that the world would notice when it was ready. The candle maker grew old. His hair turned white. His hands trembled, but every night he still lit one candle. Just one. He no longer made them for money. He made them for peace. The light kept him company, reflecting off the walls like old memories. Some nights he'd sit for hours staring at the flame, remembering the faces of people whose homes he had once brightened. He smiled often, not because his life was easy, but because he knew he had lived with purpose. One winter, the candle maker grew sick. The town noticed that his window no longer glowed. Days passed. The children who once watched his light at night asked, "Where is he?" A few men went to check, and inside they found him sitting at his workbench, a candle still burning beside him. His hands were still, his tools neatly placed, his face peaceful. The candle beside him was almost done, its wax nearly gone. But the flame stood strong, steady, unwavering. The people wept, but they also smiled, because even in his last moment, he did what he always did. He gave light. Weeks later, the townspeople gathered in his memory. They lit candles, hundreds of them, across the square. And as they watched the flames sway together in the wind, they realized something powerful. One man's quiet work had illuminated an entire town. He had never sought followers, but he had inspired many. He had never raised his voice, but his silence had become a song that would never fade. Modern science agrees. Happiness isn't found in attention, but in contribution. People who create, who give, who build for others, experience what psychologists call a deep fulfillment. It's not a high, it's peace. And peace doesn't need an audience. So, as you listen to this story, ask yourself, what kind of light are you building? Are you waiting for applause before you begin? Are you comparing your journey to others? Or are you quietly shaping something that will shine when the world goes dark? Remember, noise fades, light remains. The candle maker never tried to outshine the stars. He just made sure his corner of the world was never without warmth. That's what greatness really is. Quiet consistency, purpose without pride, service without noise. You don't need to burn the world to be remembered. You just need to burn steadily. So melt, shape, glow, create light and silence. Build something meaningful when no one's watching. Because someday when your flame burns its last, it won't be the wax people remember. It will be the warmth you left behind.